Hi, everyone. It's Carolyn Moor from the Modern Widows Club, and we have a Worcester Spotlight the month of April. You hear us talk about these pillars of healthy widowhood all the time. And in April, it's the physical health. And so I was cruising around on Instagram and I found someone special who has a Instagram tag called Racing from the Ashes. And I just thought, well, isn't that a little twist on the beauty from ashes kind of thinking? And I thought, I'm going to go check this girl out. And so today we're going to be talking to Anita Coyle. Welcome, Anita.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah. And then we found out that we both had podcasts. So I have the Healthy Widow, Healthy Woman podcast, and you have the Widow We Do Now.
Correct. Yep, you got it.
Which is you and your friend, what's her name?
Mel Shore.
Yeah, Mel. Okay, so that's something we're going to talk a little bit about, but I just reached out to you and said, hey, you're pretty awesome. And who are you? And that's kind of how a lot of times, widow sisters actually find each other. And and I think we had kind of a laugh because I was like, yeah, we're working on our website and we're on the legendary page. And you're so funny. You go, legendary widow. And I'm like, yeah, you're actually one of them, but you don't even know. Legendary. And so it was funny because I was like, I read your bio. But you sent me a little bit, and I'm just going to read a little bit, and then we're going to just get into some questions. But by profession, you're a physical therapist, you're a triathlete. It's, I actually saw your article in Triathlete magazine.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. But you have 4 super energetic kids, 3 sons, 1 daughter between the ages of 4 and 14.
Yeah.
And you became widowed in January 2019, which
Correct.
was just over a little 2 years. So you're in your 3rd year.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about, how you used physical endurance really to work through your grief journey. You still are raising a family, how it's helped you keep your sanity, and really just talk about the importance, and then how do you stay committed to it. So tell us a little bit just about your backstory with Jason, because I love the story that you had together as a couple that then infused itself to your family, right, which really gave you this foundation of using this modality to use in the hardest time of your life. So share a little bit about that backstory with you and Jason.
So I met Jason right out of high school, and we got married when I was 19 when I got married, which is so young. I'm like, what was I thinking? But we had a terrific marriage. We were happy. We lived a life of gratitude and laughter, and we just loved our life. I mean, everybody has hard things, but we just really had a good time every day in our marriage. And we had 4 kids, and they just added to the craziness. And we used to joke that we were not a well-oiled machine, but we were adequately lubricated. And that's how we did things. And when I was going to physical therapy school, that's when I started running, and I signed up for my first triathlon. And before that, I mean, I played sports in high school, but I avoided running. I thought that was for really stupid people. It made me want to throw up. So, but I felt dumb in physical therapy school. There's all these marathoners and, and I'm like, ugh. Anyway, signed up for my first triathlon. Jason was a swimmer in high school, and he went back to swimming, and he swam with our local masters team, and swam 4 days a week doing just lap swimming, and then became a marathon swimmer. Yeah. So he would swim. A marathon swim is anything over 6 miles. So you're talking about swimming straight for about 3 to 3.5 hours, at least. That's the minimum. I know, kind of a crazy person.
I mean, you were like, oh, see ya later.
Oh, no, you have to have a support kayaker. So I kayaked next to him for those times, and it was super boring. So I listened to a lot of books on tape while we kayaked across the lake. But yeah, Jason was in terrific shape. He was an endurance athlete, and And I started to do more races, and it took me, I like to tell people that it took me 7 years to enjoy running. So when people say like, well, it's not that fun, I'm like, you got to give it some time before you like really feel like it's a part of you and that you want to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. I've never been really one of those great runners. I would just much rather like row or swim or
Anything else?
anything else, right? It just
Yeah.
don't make me run.
Yeah.
But also, I guess just it was, the running that it consisted was in gymnastics and base softball, right?
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
get to the bases,
Yeah.
that's all you needed to be as a sprinter.
Yes.
So marathon is just, it's a whole endurance. And so, I have to believe that this idea of endurance, you have that mentality now, even in New Widowhood. So you, so your story is really remarkable. You had such I relate to you so much because I worked out with my late husband too. It was just part of what we did, because it made us feel better. It made
Oh,
us
yeah.
feel better. We could do more. It was a hard stop from work, the division of work and play and family. So, but then you just tell us a little bit about your backstory on just what happened with Jason.
I know. So just to go back to what you were saying about how helpful it was before, raising kids is hard. They are hard. And so I used to use that as my sanity. It was like, I need to get out and do something every day just to give me like some alone time and a break and just to feel better. But so I was used to doing that before, and then it just became even more important after he died. But what happened was he went swimming on a Thursday night, and that night I was supposed to go swimming. I usually went swimming on Thursday nights, and he would stay home with the kids. But the day before, I had surgery to remove a thyroid nodule, so I couldn't go swimming the next day. So he decided he was going to go swimming, came in, kissed me goodnight, went swimming. An hour and a half later, a police officer came to the door, told me I needed to go to the hospital. And in my brain, I was like, oh, dumb Jason, he fell down and needs stitches, And in hindsight, you're like, they don't send a police officer to, like, he probably would have just called you, But I drove up to the hospital, and the doctor just said, I'm just going to get straight to the point. Jason died tonight. And it was just like, so I mean, what had happened is he got in the pool and started his warm up and came to the side of the pool and told the coach he was feeling funny, got out of the pool, thought he was going to throw up, went into the locker room and collapsed. And they did CPR. I mean, there's lifeguards there. They have the AED, but they just couldn't get his heart started. And we found out later that he had a heart defect. It was making his heart work harder than it should have been. And he was making his heart work hard. And so he just had an arrhythmia that turned fatal. So it was just here, healthy, and then gone.
And how old was he?
42.
42.
Yeah, just crazy. It's still crazy. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel real. It's just, both of us were, in the hospital when our spouses, all of a sudden I was in a car accident, but I knew that, okay, this is bad. But then I thought, oh, but
Yeah.
it's my husband. Like, he's not going to go anywhere. He's invincible.
It's bad, but we'll get through
it. Him,
Yeah.
He's healthy.
Yes.
He's done all the right things.
Yeah, that was actually
doesn't
really
happen to
hard.
people like them. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like our husbands.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I call it sort of the bereavement to believement phase. You're in disbelief. It's just your brain can't quite wrap around.
Yeah.
But then we had to go home to our kids.
I know.
And tell me about that, because I know how heartbreaking and probably the most difficult thing for me that I remember, because I don't remember a lot, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
What was that like? Yeah.
Hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. So I got back from the hospital at about 11 o'clock, stayed up that whole night. My family came over, we laid on the living room floor, and I kept repeating over and over to myself, I'm 38. I'm 38. Like, I'm not supposed to be a widow at 38, you know, and I was just in shock. And I had to wait until my kids woke up in the morning. And I was just so nervous about having to have that conversation. What do you say? But they came walking out of their bedrooms and the room is full of people, you know,
Right.
you're like,
Abnormal.
what's going on? So I took him into one of my oldest daughter knew because she was awake when it all happened, but the younger three were asleep. So I took him into their bedroom and I sat him down and I said, something really sad has happened, you know. And at this point in time, we didn't know what had happened, you know. So I just said, daddy's body died. His heart stopped and he died and he's not coming home. And my kids were young enough at the time that the youngest ones didn't really understand what that meant.
True.
They were like, okay, but then there was a lot of talk of respawning, or, you know, when is he coming back? And that was hard in and of itself. The older two kind of understood the finality of it, and it was hard. I mean, it still is hard, but that was a hard transition for sure.
My daughters, we're at stage 21, so my 2-year-old doesn't have any memory really of her dad. My 4-year-old has some, but it's more of like a almost like a kind of spirit knowing. They feel him. There's no doubt that he is still felt in their life. They just miss the person because they hear all the stories. You know, when someone is beloved and they're hearing stories from friends and family, and they feel the odd one out because they're like, I didn't know that part of my dad.
Yeah.
So I think it's bittersweet. People want to share those stories and they're grateful for the stories, but there is always this sort of like, why didn't I get to, you know, and we don't ask those questions anymore, you know, because they're heartbreaking to ask.
They're not answerable, you know.
It's like a necessary additional pain inflicted on yourself. So you went through that, and then, but you had to deal with this nodule turned into something very different in the same week.
Yeah. So we thought this was nothing, the thyroid. And then a week after Jason's funeral, I got a phone call from the surgeon and he asked me to come into his office. And I'm a medical person and I was like, that's not good. So I went in and he said, we sent it to pathology and it's come back as cancerous. And it's not the normal cancer that thyroids usually get. It's potentially a trickier form. So then it was just like, what? I just have become this newly solo parent of 4 kids. I'm dealing with the worst thing that could ever happen. And then you're going to add this.
I can't talk to Jason about it.
Yes. And I needed to talk to him because there was some decisions that I needed to make about which way to go, whether to go the nuclear option or whether to go the conservative option. And it was just like, the one person that I need to talk through these things is not here. And the stakes were so much higher. If I choose the wrong thing, my kids are going to be orphans, so it was just too much to handle. It was like my world had just collapsed. And this is what I say. I mean, my world collapsed when Jason died, and then the rubble caught fire when I got diagnosed with cancer. It was like, I can't, what else can we add?
You got treated and you're in remission now, which I was very happy to hear. And
yes.
And your level of exercise and commitment to your health has to really contribute to that. It is for your sanity and just also your body responding to all of the health benefits of what you do. So
I hope so. I mean, I don't know, but that's, you gotta hope that it's doing something for you, right?
Yes. Well, I saw the photos you sent to me today. You're just like out there. I was like, wow. But it's also what I have been told by others is that's their moment of feeling free from the enormity of what life now has become for you. It's like this is still one thing that you can actually control. I can run. I can feel the wind in my face. And like, I love what you wrote when you sent me. You said it was the first moment I realized I was alive, those big, deep breaths. Wow, there's still air in my lungs.
and the cold air and the, you know, the feeling of that and hearing your breath and just knowing that your body is doing something.
Is that when you kind of felt like the miracle of the body?
Oh, I've always been obsessed with the miracle of the body. That's, you know, why I went into physical therapy. I mean, yeah, our bodies are crazy. If you even just learn how a kidney works, you're like, what in the world, you know? And then we have a whole body full of that. It's really a miracle, our bodies.
It really is. I mean, I was a nurse in my 20s, and, you know, just having gone through all the A&P classes and neurology, and it's really understanding. My mom just called me, you know, and she said, "Oh no, I have a nodule." And I go, "That's good. It's a nodule. Nodules are nodules, Mom. Nodules are not tumors." Okay. And so I had to explain to her the difference. She goes, "Oh, that's a good thing that they said that?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "I wish more people just understood basic terminology." So you've used, you really probably never really stopped really exercising. And then you went on and you won this Xterra Warrior Award. What was that? Tell us about that in 2019.
Yeah, so the backstory to that is that I had qualified in 2018 to do the World Championship Xterra Off-Road in, where is it? Maui. I can't even remember.
Oh,
And
that's a nice place.
I really wanted to go. And Jason and I kind of got in a fight about it because we had about 6 weeks to plan it, and we'd just gone on a trip to Disneyland and we were out of money, and he was just like, it makes no sense to pick up, you know, we got to find people to watch our kids. And I was grumpy about it because I was like, YOLO, you know, you got to do it. So we decided that 2019 would be the year. I would train hard, I would qualify again, and we would go and we would spend our 20th anniversary in Maui. So that's why I had the surgery early in the year. I just needed to get that little like inconvenience out of the way. And then he died. And it was like nothing existed anymore. You know, all of the plans, all of the things that you wanted to do just went out the window.
Yep.
And I had to recover a little bit from the surgery. And then, like we were talking about, the first time I went running, it was just like, oh, I'm still here, you know. And then I started to realize that the only time I felt any amount of happiness or positivity or hope for the future was when I was out riding my bike or running. And I even went back to the pool and started swimming, you know, where Jason died. And I still swim there. And then the idea started to creep in the back of my head. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you can do this race. Maybe you can still qualify. Maybe you can still train. And so I talked to lots of people about it, and a lot of people told me it was a terrible idea. Like, you know, you have too much on your plate right now. But I was like, this is the only thing that's giving me any sense of looking forward.
Yeah, it's a line of sight.
Of hoping for something. Yes, to feel like I'm accomplishing something. So went for it, you know, and I had so much help from family and friends to be able to, I mean, it's a lot of training. It's a lot of hours every day. And it was looking at my schedule every, you know, the next day and saying, okay, I have time between 12 and 2. So that's when I'm going to go. I have time between, you know, I got to go at 6 a.m. I got to go at, you know, and just finding people to help. And then ended up qualifying, ended up being able to race in Maui. And when we got there, they have an award for somebody who's overcome something, you know, something big to be able to be there. And I had no idea they were going to give it to me, and they did. So I won this big award, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I was gonna, so that's a huge accomplishment. You must have felt Jason was with you, you know, throughout that. I mean, I would think, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the reason that I chuckle is that Jason also thought running was stupid. He would bike all day and he would swim all day. And I remember being out on the course and just really like not stopping, but really thinking about him. And as soon as I thought about him, I tripped over a tree root. And I was like, what? You jerk. You know?
So like, here, let me give you a little humbling moment here. This is this the, I want to share real quick. What was this?
That was the qualifying race, the Pan American Championships race. That's when I crossed the finish line, and 3 of my kids came in and crossed the finish line with me. So that was the race that allowed me,
Right.
you have to qualify for the championship
Mhm.
race. So that was the qualifying race.
Wow. Wow. So you accomplished this big goal. You come home. There's these 4 children, and then COVID starts.
Oh,
Let's talk a little bit about that, because we're talking, okay, I'm already living a life, right? Where I'm living a life where I don't recognize. Okay,
yeah,
but I'm doing it, waking up every morning, committing, and then there's COVID.
COVID.
How, I'm sorry, but I'm like, I feel like bowing right now, because poor kids,
Oh
educating them
gosh.
at home,
Yes.
being isolated, or
Yes.
just
It
share.
was just a disaster. It was a full-blown disaster. I mean, I actually Googled like people who are successful with a 4th grade education, because I was like, you got, like, you're done. Like, you're not learning anything else. I'm sorry. It was so hard. But at the same time, then the times you get away are so much more important. Like, you need to have that break, and you need those endorphins to be able to deal with what you're dealing with. And luckily, the
Yeah.
things that I do are mostly outside, don't need a gym. The gyms were all closed, so it was like, I can still put on my running shoes. I can still hop on my bike, and I can just get out of here and leave. I bought about $7 billion worth of Legos to bribe my kids with during that time.
Wow.
Like, if you do this, you can have a Lego. And that's
If
how
you
we,
build it, they will come.
yes, that's how we dealt with it when it was really locked down, and you weren't supposed to go anywhere. It was just so bizarre. It just was adding insult to injury.
Well, this is what I talk a lot of times about. I go, in some ways, widowhood prepared us. We know what it's like to have your normal completely taken
Yes.
away. You have
Yes.
no choice in the matter. You
Mhm.
have to just face it.
Yeah.
You experience perseverance and patience on a level like you have never known.
Yeah.
It really does feel like, and I have seen a lot of our ladies go, oh, they make that connection where they're like, well, I kind of had a trial run on this
Yes.
thing,
Absolutely.
and I know what it's like to just prioritize what's
Yes.
most important. All
Yes.
that other fluff stuff already left my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I weathered, this certainly well, because I was like, this kind of feels like 2000 and 2001. And then when September 11th happened, I was like, oh, okay, the world's changed forever. Like, I'm as soon as I can, I'm going to travel, and I don't care if we all die in a plane. I mean, we'll just die. I mean, you just have this attitude where you're just a
Yeah.
little bit freeing, lot of independence, and it's like, screw this or fuck that. You're just, oops, I'm not supposed to say that, but it's literally like, that's your attitude, right? It's like,
Yeah.
now I create whatever it is that we need, what we want, and there are no rules for us anymore. And I realize everyone else wants to control, and advise me, but I have to do what I can. I'm smart enough to know what me and my family need.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
So,
And
and still, I mean, are your kids back in school?
they go to school 4 days a week. I was so thankful. I felt really torn about it, because I was like, this is probably not the smartest thing to do, but I'm not going to say anything because I need them to go back to school so bad. Yeah. So
All
they
of you did. All of you did. All of your mental health. You needed that.
yes.
They need the socialization. You need the break. You need them to, see their friends.
Yeah. And just, I mean, 24/7 with
Too
your
much.
kids is enough. And when you have to be the teacher too, that was really hard, because they're like, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm not going to do.
Right?
And I had 3, I'm like, you're on that one, you're on that one, we're doing this, and then we're going to do this. And then, it was crazy for a minute
So you
there.
learned how to juggle for real.
No, really, I just let the balls drop. It
Yeah.
was like, I can either make myself crazy and not be okay, emotionally, or I can just say, like, this will end at some point in time, and you're in 4th grade, and it's going to be okay. Like,
So
really, I did that.
Yeah. So if during COVID, let's play a little game. It's if in a perfect world, if you could have just taken a little magic wand and gotten whatever you wanted, like you have had lots of great support, right? From
Yeah.
your, what we
Yeah.
call golden friends,
Yeah.
family and friends, because here's the reality, we survey everyone at Modern Widows Club, and almost 40% of the women who have done our widow empowerment quiz,
Mhm.
almost 40% have kids at home, small
Yeah.
kids at home. And the amount of women who our age, under the age of 65, the average age is 59, um, it's almost 70% in our community. So we're all young, in this age range. We are not what people think of, the gray-haired grandmothers or
Yeah.
the military widows. That's kind of the polar opposites, but we're the in-between.
Yeah.
And so, in a perfect world, like what would you have wanted? Like here's COVID, every widow, you're given 3 wishes.
Yeah. Well, I'd want my
And you
husband
have
back first. I mean, we have to get that one out, right? Like,
yeah,
he was a teacher too. So I'm like,
an English teacher.
I really could have
He could
used
have helped
you to
you,
teach the children, which you do. So I felt like that was super rude. Super rude.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. The hardest thing for me is that you can have a lot of help, and I have a lot of help from friends and family, but I don't have another parent. You know what I'm saying? Somebody whose whole commitment is to that person
Gotcha.
and who you're a team with. Right now, even people who are really helpful, they're still babysitters. Do you know what I'm saying? They're just holding down the fort until I come back to make the decisions, or to, decide what's going to happen, or to discipline, or to figure it out. And that is the hard thing, is that you can
Well,
have so much help, but it does not replace the
it doesn't. I mean, people don't realize when your children are minors, you have to have like a health waiver when you go out of town. I mean, I remember thinking people didn't understand, or like, what's a health waiver? And I go, oh, it's something that basically says, in my absence, they have a right. I give them permission to be a stand-in guardian, in case they have to go to the emergency room. And it only happened once. One time I was out of town on a business trip, and my daughter fell and hit her head ice skating and got a concussion. And so my babysitter, my Renee, had to take her, and she pulled out that form and she said, wow, this is so rare. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
I didn't
my
know
life.
you were supposed to do that.
Right. Like I can't even fly to go somewhere without having all these legal documents to make sure someone else legally, like a parent would,
Yeah.
to stand in for me as an actual legal guardian.
Yeah.
So the people don't realize that there's all of that is also on our shoulders to be there for.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
a lot
really,
just
I empathize. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. Even when you do leave, you come back and everything's just how it was, and you have to pick up, and it's not like you can leave and like, if
No.
your husband's there, things will keep moving on, but it's not how it happens now.
In little things, right? Laundry, taking the trash out, picking something up, taking the car to be maintained, anything, cleaning the refrigerator, picking up just the house, all of those things people take so for granted. So, you could have probably used a handyman. You probably could have used
A maid.
house cleaning for a year, right? Like just these things that you don't have to, the other adult in the house will just automatically do, because this is their household.
They're committed to the house. Yeah, it's their
Right.
house too. Yeah.
So I loved what you had written me. You gave me some information here, and obviously exercise has been tremendous, in your grieving process and growth. At MWC, we talk about hope, heal, grow, lead, and you're doing all of those, and we all are in different levels. But I loved what you said. What do you recommend for those starting out? And you listed some things about starting off slow and keeping your expectations low, which I love. It's like, okay, I'm making it to the mailbox today. That's it.
Sometimes that's what it is, depending on where you're starting out. I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of people think to themselves like, okay, I'm going to start from nothing, and I'm going to do one of those couch to marathon programs. and that's like, you can do that. A lot of people do that, but that's also asking a lot of yourself.
I tried that once. Yeah.
How'd it go?
Lasted about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just slower than that.
But it was a really nice app. And then set a goal, sign up for a race. This is what I always tell people. Oh, you want to get stuff done around your house? Oh, just invite people over. You'll get it done. Same theory here.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Find a community. Tell me how important that is.
So I listened to this study once that was talking about how people who have more emotional health have different tribes. And the more tribes you have, the more support you have, and the more you're healthy. And they were saying that a lot of people have 2 or 3 tribes, but 5 or 6 tribes is what they are recommending. And so, for instance, I have the swim team that I swim on. That's one tribe. If you do high fit, the people at the high fit class can be your community, can be your tribe. Triathlon, that's a community. You make friends, you have people that I play volleyball during the week, and my volleyball team is one of my tribes, and the more people that you can have that are on your team and supporting you, the more you feel supported and you feel loved. And when you can find a community that goes around whatever you want to do, and it doesn't have to be running, it doesn't have to be swimming, you can badminton, you can join a badminton league. If you have a community, then it makes it more likely that you're gonna want to keep doing that, and you're gonna find support.
When I met Dr. Stephen Southwick and I read in his book, The 10 Components of Building Resilience, physical endurance and training is one of them. But it was interesting, out of the 10 things, 8 you can do: facing fear, emotional flexibility, spiritual, or health. He had all these really amazing things that they've been researching for 30 years, right? 2 of them, you had to go outside yourself. You had to find a community that understood and you felt where you belong. Yeah. And you had to find other resilient role models. Well, all of those circles, you are uniquely in doing that. And so you're practicing resilience science every day, and even if you're not even thinking of it that way. So even Modern Widows Club, it's like we're another circle that we want to get back behind you and cheer you on and share your huge accomplishments. So the next thing was, don't be afraid to pay people, for sure. We were talking about how I would go to the gym and I was in the best shape ever because I got 3 hours of free babysitting, so I was taking advantage of it.
I know the babysitting at the gyms is usually like a lifesaver, and it went away during COVID, but the gym where I go swim, it's like fairly inexpensive too. So
so I was like, well, and if they really like it, if your kids really like it, I mean, that's a huge bonus. So then, from day to day, you wrote, schedule your workout time, kind of, like when people schedule their meals and they know what's coming up. And then you said, ask for help. And then the last one was, set out your clothes. And I told you, I said, I know that's me. Like if I have to have my clothes right there, because then it's like, come and put me on.
Yeah.
But it's
and for me,
the prep time.
If I get my clothes on, eventually I will go.
Yes.
I found that when I was first starting out, that was the line, that if I crossed that line, I would keep going. And if I never crossed the get dressed in your workout clothes, then I could keep putting it off. But that was the line. And that won't be the same for everybody, but that's a tip that I have is.
So I thought all those tips were really great. And so I wanted to share because it's incremental, right? It's the small baby steps. I tell people all the time, it's not, you're not going to run that marathon. You're going to, for me, it's, I just did my physical assessment and I'm like, oh, things changed a little bit in COVID because I lost muscle. So now my goal is, of course, to build more muscle, because obviously that helps everything from controlling your blood sugar to really recognizing what you eat and how it impacts you. And so I have a baseline because I did it in 2019 and now I can see, I'm like, oh, I actually lost weight, but I lost muscle and I need more muscle to be able to do all the things I need.
And
so it's really great.
I think about the muscle thing, and even in a practical sense, like we lost our husbands, and my husband was like a big guy and he carried everything and was strong. And it's like, okay, now I have to be able to carry the kid in a backpack on a hike. Now I have to be able to, you know what I'm saying? So there's like some practical value to it too. And when you exercise, you have more energy too, which seems like counterintuitive, but it's not. And it's like, you need that because you have more that you're expected to do now.
It's true. I remember I pulled you're making these memories come back, but I pulled my shoulder out and I was like, oh, you have another arm. Why don't you use that one? But it's like the groceries, the athletic equipment, the just everything, laundry, everything. It's just the constant wear and tear on the body, which is why we care so much about women's health here at MWC. So I have a trick question here for you.
Yes.
And so, and it's like you have to answer for your whole family. So if which does your family like the most? Milk chocolate, dark chocolate, or salted caramels?
I have to answer for everybody?
Well, yeah.
I like dark chocolate.
Oh, you like dark chocolate?
Yes.
What would be the consensus?
The kids would like milk chocolate because children don't understand what tastes good yet. So, and then I have a lactose intolerant daughter, and so she would take any of those if she could, but she can't do any of it.
She can't do any of it. Oh, okay.
That's a bummer.
It's all that mixture of like. So what are you cooking for dinner tonight?
Oh, don't ask me that. I have no idea. What day is it? It's Friday. I don't even know what day it is. I told you we were adequately lubricated before when Jason was alive, and now we're just above seized engine, you know.
Okay, so what would you take a month worth of car maintenance, house cleaning, or babysitting?
House cleaning.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So I hope somebody who watches this is now going to go, how do we sponsor Anita and give her a month? I think a month of cleaning is what needs to happen, because it's all that deep cleaning that takes so long. Like we sweep and pick up, but it's that deep cleaning, no interest. And I wanted to tell you, like, I had 2 children I raised on my own, you have 4. And when they went off to college, I literally slept for a year. And I made a promise to myself, I'm never going to ever work a job where I have to wake up and stay up late, because when your kids are older, you have to stay up because they're teenagers and they have to have a curfew. So I wake up early, stay up late. You're going to get your sleep. It's just going to take a little while for you.
Okay. I will count on it. I'm going to hold you to that promise.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Anita. It was really great getting to know you. And you guys go over to Instagram and find her on Racing from the Ashes, and also the podcast. I guess you can just you're on all the podcast.
Yeah, most of the major ones. Yeah. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those. We have a good time. We interview lots of widows, and surprisingly, we're not big downers. So people listen to it thinking it's going to be really like dark and sad, and we joke a lot. So
no, we all have unique humors.
Yeah.
When you get to
the humors. Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we will see you online. Hope
everyone enjoyed
this. See ya.